Welcome to the Art Lady's home. Today I am potting up some coleus, a two-tone variegated coleus, some citronella plants, and I'm also going to pot up some cuttings of my mom's antique hydrangeas. And I'm real excited about this. Her hydrangeas are 30 years old. And I'm going to go ahead, I had them years ago planted in this little circle right here. And they were so gorgeous, and I added extra acid to the soil so they were beautiful blue, and they filled up this entire little circle here in this partially shaded area of my yard. And I'm real excited to get that back because I'm restoring this garden to the way it was when I spent many hours a day working in here. I'm real excited. I came back from my mom's house and I took a bunch of cuttings from her yard. I have this amazing citronella, and so I'm going to make some new plants out of this. It smells so gorgeous. And then I have this variegated coleus, which is beautiful. It's got this purple on the backside and these nice beautiful purple stems, and then this lime green leaf. It's just gorgeous, and I have a lot of that. And then I have some hydrangeas, or hydrangeas, however you want to say it. And this is the variety that turns, it's either purple or blue depending on the acidity in your soil. And I used to grow these in my backyard, and I had a whole row of them that's it actually encircled an area, and they have since died out. So I took my mom's cuttings, and this is actually from a bush that's about 30 years old that my mom's had. So that's kind of neat. So I've got a couple of those. So I'm going to pot up all these, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to be using just an inexpensive potting mix, and then I'm going to mix perlite. So I'm going to do 50-50, and then I'm going to fill up my 3 little buckets with the 50-50 mix. Now you can use your own potting soil, potting mix, whatever you want to use to root this in. Some people just use sand, some people use just 100% perlite, so it's up to you. I'm doing a 50-50, and I've often done it even in my garden, to stick it in where behind a bush or under a plant where it's going to get some shade before it takes root. You just need to have it in a protected area. So it can go directly into the garden. You just have to water it. I'm going to start out with a rooting hormone, and you can use any brand of rooting hormone. And I'm going to dump a little bit of it into a disposable plastic container. And you don't need much. It's probably a half a teaspoon here. And then I'm going to start off with this gorgeous coleus. And I'm going to take, this is about a 6 to 8 inch piece, and I'm just going to pull off any of the lower stems. And directly below the lowest set of stems, I'm just going to make a clean cut. Right here. With some clean scissors. That's just a fresh, clean cut. And that's it's probably about 1/4 of an inch below the actual leaf nodes. And the leaf nodes, this is where the roots will start forming, the new roots. You don't want to take your cut in between the leaves, because this is where it's going to form, and this stuff will just rot, that part of the stem. So now I'm going to take my stem cutting that I've just trimmed and dip it into the rooting hormone. I'm just going to tap it a little bit. And then I'm going to place it near the outer edges. And I'm just going to do all my root cuttings around in a circle. And then I'm going to take a pencil, and about a 1/2 inch from my outer edge, so the ring here on the edge, I'm going to go in a 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to go down straight with the pencil. This just opens up the little hole here for the root cutting. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick my root cutting in. Now I'm going to remove some of these other leaves as well. Stick that in first. And I'm just going to cut off some of these leaves. I just want the growing tip here. That way the energy won't go to these outer leaves. It'll go right to the stem and roots. So now I'm going to do the same for this one. And I'm going to pull off the other leaves cut the bottom. And this was a couple days ago. I went to my mom's actually, so I've been just soaking these in water. And then I'm going to do the pencil. This is going to be a shorter one. Pushing it all the way in and pressing. I want these two leaves gone too. I just want the tips. There. This one's a bit long. And here's a bigger piece. These coleus root really easy, so you can get away with a little bit longer pieces. And I'm going to make my slice. Dip it into the rooting hormone. And any of these big leaves I'm going to remove. Like that. I'm just going to leave all the real tiny ones. And some of this coleus actually has roots already forming. Let's see if I can find a piece here, because it was hanging over in a pot, which is really cool. And it's going to be a lot easier to root. And this one's really long, so I'm going to break this up into different pieces. I'm just going to trim this. I can't see right in there. Let's see. And then I'm going to trim this piece off as well. And then where the roots are, at the end here, I'm going to dip that in hormone. And those roots, all of this is going to go under. So if you have any roots already showing, like all that, I'm just going to put that right in there. I'm going to move it like this and dip all of that right in. And that's going to root real easy, of course, because the roots are already showing. Any of the real large leaves, I'm going to pull off. That way it gets air in here. I'm going to take these two off too. And also, you'll be able to see when you start seeing the new growth. There. And so I'm going to continue doing this just like that all around. Okay, so this pot is potted up. I have quite a bit actually in there. I haven't actually had to go into the next pot. But I don't have very many citronellas, so I'm going to go ahead and put my citronella in this pot here. The citronellas almost remind me of like a geranium, the stem and the consistency. The leaves even almost look like a geranium. They may be in the geranium family. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to break this up into several pieces though. So I'm going to actually I'm just going to do 2 of them. Right here, and I'm going to pull off any lower leaves. This has some branching down here. Any of these big lower leaves. And then I'm going to clip this one as well, this really big leaf. There. Where this branches out, I'm going to pull that off too. And then I'm going to put I'm going to root this small piece here in the rooting hormone. And then I'm going to do this. This is an older wood, so I don't know how well that'll take. Right there. I'm going to try this little piece as well because I have a really small piece of that one. And now I'm going to pull off the lower leaves here. Dip it into the rooting hormone. And place that in the hole. And I'm going down about 2 inches and firming. And I may even try one of these leaves. We'll see how that's gonna, if that'll root. It has some of the stem. Part of the stem right here. So we'll see if that's gonna root as well. I know you can do leaf cuttings from begonias, so we will try that. And then the last one I'm gonna do is the hydrangea, or hydrangeas. And I'm gonna pull off any of these leaves that are oversized. And then any, ooh, that's pulling down the stem. I don't want that to split. And this had flowered, so I'm pulling off any of these dead little flowers. And this, like I said, was from my mom's bush. And this was over 30 years old. I'm gonna separate this into two pieces. This is the growing tip, and then this is a side shoot. So near the, directly, here's the first leaf node. I'm gonna do a cut directly below that. So I'm gonna try and root this little piece here. And for these are really small. I'm just gonna push right in. And now I'm gonna cut the bottom. Trim my bottom so it's a fresh cut. And put that in, like so. And then I have another piece right here. I'm gonna remove any of these really large leaves. And then I'm gonna fresh cut. And then dip it in the rooting hormone. This one's a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna do the pencil first. Right, it's like so. Oh, I don't want those leaves. I don't want the soil to cover the first set of leaves. That might have to be up a little bit higher. And I'm going to do the same for the rest of this branch. I'm going to break it up into smaller pieces. Now I have them all potted up. Oh, I missed a little one right here, actually. This one's a harder wood cutting. So this is a mixture of softwood and hardwood cuttings. So the hardwood may just take a little bit longer. And there I have it. So I'm going to give it a good water, and then I'm going to put it in the shade. Now, depending on where you live, we have high humidity here in Central Florida. So it should be okay right now in July, just put in the shade after I water it real good. But you can also put it in a plastic bag, a giant plastic bag, or put it, or even a Coke bottle, a big bottle, or a dome on top. Let's see, I have a plastic dome over here, because you don't want these to dry out at all. So even like a dome like this, over the top, that'll ensure it stays moist. And then put it in the shade. But like I said, I'm going to water it real good and then stick it in the shade. So your other options are to, depending on where you live, if you live in a really dry area, you're going to want to cover this like with a plastic bag or a plastic dome, or even a milk jug, the bottom cut out of a milk jug. That helps aerate it. Now when I do the dome, I don't want to seal this. I want to have some air flow. And you really don't want the leaves to touch the plastic either, because then they could cause rot. So there you have it. That's a simple way of making new plants from friends' cuttings or from your own cuttings in your garden. And I'm watering them really good. And I let that drain, and I'm doing this one again, just to get it nice and moist. And then they're ready. Once they root, I'll show you where I'm going to put them. For the hydrangeas, I'm going to put them in this little circular area here where I used to have them, and they grew really well here. It's partially shaded. You can see right now it's afternoon, and toward the end of this bed it's a little bit sunnier, and then I've got some dappled shade down here, and they really grow well against this back fence. And I had them years ago, but then when I neglected my garden, a lot of things died, and I'm going to put them back with some of my mom's cuttings. And actually, I think the original ones that I had were cuttings that I had taken from her bush years ago. That was about 25 years ago. And so I had a whole row of them all wrapping around this whole circular area, and they look quite beautiful. I'm tucking them right underneath this fishtail palm because it gets shade morning and afternoon. So they'll be safe there, and then they'll be exposed so I can see them and remember to water them. And every few days I'm going to be checking on them to make sure they have enough water. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to hear more of my garden updates, don't forget to subscribe.